Today we're going to be talking about shifts in demand and supply curves. So I've reproduced the two tables from your textbook in this practice page to kind of help you along. So shifts in demand, we can have an outward shift, all right, and those are caused by the factors that are listed on the left. And a leftward shift, when demand decreases, are caused by the factors on the right. The second table shows you for shifts in supply, and that supply curve can move left or right depending on changes in that affect the producer side. So before you do this, there are some key terms that we need to review. All right, so let's go over those key terms. For that, we've got the idea of a substitute. And you took this down in the notes, but we need to kind of use this today, so I want to just refer to it. So this is substitute is a good that is equivalent to / can replace another. So an example could be Jeff and Skippy, right? They're both peanut butters, so you could substitute one for the other. So if the price of Jeff went up, right, the price of the substitute goes up, then you'd expect the quantity that people want of Skippy to go up. So if we were looking at Skippy, and their supply and demand, right, the quantity, which is on our horizontal axis, right, we just said, well, the quantity of Skippy goes up that people want. So that means we're going to go up. We have to have a point that's further down. In order to get that intersection with a shift in our demand, our curve goes to the right. So then we would say, okay, demand shifted right, along our supply curve, and then we would also say our quantity, I should say equilibrium, quantity and price both increase, right? Because when we shift that demand curve to the right, our quantity goes up as well as our price. So a complement is a similar idea. It's just going to be something that goes with a good. Whoops. If I can do this right here. So a complement those are going to be two goods that are frequently bought together. So if we're going to continue with our peanut butter example, that could be like Jeff and Smuckers. So if we're talking about the demand for Jeff, right, well, if the price of Smuckers goes up, that complement goes up, then you'd expect the demand for peanut butter to go down, because fewer people are going to buy Smuckers, the jam, if the price is higher. So if fewer people are buying Smuckers, and we've got this thing we normally sell with Smuckers, and the quantity of that's going to go down. So that would shift our demand curve down. Or to the left. So our initial quantity would be there, our new quantity here. So you would say demand shifted left. Along supply. And then equilibrium quantity and price. Decreased. Alright, so now that you've kind of been reminded of those two key terms, which are going to come up as we do the problems today, let's scroll down and we'll look at a few examples together before I unleash you on the practice problems. So we've got 4 situations from your textbook we're going to consider here. All of them refer to different markets. All right, we're looking at the supply and demand of hamburgers in your hometown. So each of these is going to be our hamburger model. So this is for hamburgers. We still are always going to have our price and quantity, our supply, and our demand. So we start by making those 2 lines. So we've got our initial quantity and our initial equilibrium price. Now we have to consider what's happening for each scenario. So this will be our A. So for A, it says the price of tacos increase. So if you're at a restaurant and you've got hamburgers and tacos, right, you're only going to order one meal for yourself. So those would be substitutes, right, because you can substitute your meal from a hamburger to a taco or from a taco to a hamburger. So a taco is a substitute. So we'd expect, just intuitively, that if the price of a taco went up, then the quantity demanded of hamburgers, our other option, well, we'd expect that hamburger to be relatively cheaper, so we'd expect that to go up. So when the price of our tacos go up, more people are going to switch from tacos to hamburgers, so our quantity is going to increase. In order for that to happen on our graph, our demand line is going to shift. Right. So I've got a new quantity, and if I go across, a new price. So the description of that would be demand shifted left, shifted right, might be. Along supply curve. And our equilibrium price and quantity went up. Alright, so we've got 3 more scenarios to look at, so let's look at B. It says hamburger sellers raise the price of their french fries. So hamburgers and french fries go together. So here we're talking about a situation where we've got complements. So our sellers, first of all, sellers is telling me that's going to be my supply curve. And complements, so if we raise the price of our french fries, we're going to anticipate that the quantity demanded of hamburgers goes down. Right? So we're going to say, well, if our quantity goes down, then our supply curve has to shift to the left. So we've got this new quantity, this new price. So you would say supply shifts left, along demand, and then price increases, quantity decreases. All right, next up, we've got income in the town falls. Assume that hamburgers are inferior good for most people. So let's just quickly review from our notes what those types of goods are. So we've got 3 types of goods we talk about. Inferior, you buy more when you make less. Normal, you buy more when you make more. And then there's the luxury goods, which you can only buy if you make a certain amount of money. All right, so we're going to be talking about inferior goods here. So if our income goes down, we're going to buy more of it. So C says income falls in town. Assume hamburgers are a normal good for most people. So if they're a normal good, that means we buy more when we make more. Right, so this is C. And this is if our hamburgers are a normal good. So if we buy more when we make more, then when we make less, we buy less. Since we're the buyers, that's going to be the demand curve we're talking about. So for our quantity to go down on our demand curve, we need to shift that guy to the left. So now I've got a lower quantity and a lower price. So this would be demand shifts left, along supply, and then our price and our quantity both decrease. All right, and then D says, well, what if you make less and it's a inferior good? Well, so if hamburgers are an inferior good and you're making less money, you buy more of an inferior good when you make less. So since we're making less money, we're going to buy more hamburgers if hamburgers are an inferior good, something we buy more of when we have less money. So in this case, we've got demand shifting right instead of left. And our price and quantity increase. All right, so go ahead and try the problems we've got below. So there are 8 of them. All right, so you're looking at 1 and 2, 4 problems in each type.